and female?
As we said, right, that it must be the snake was.
Must be, I don't
Yeah,
want.
it must be. No, because. Right.
Okay. I'm very methodical.
Yeah.
That must be. Don't give me your assumption.
Right.
Give me from here. Singular or plural?
You see,
Or how do we find
from
out?
here we don't really have a proof of anything so much. Okay, from the Chumash, because it doesn't say explicitly. Okay, but you have to. There's a few things you have to know. Number one is that the snake was like any other animal. That means that all the animals were created male and female, so there should be no difference from the snake and the other animal. It's just logic, you know,
Again,
very simple logic.
But again, one thing I always had a problem
Right.
with my rabbis and
Yeah.
with this rabbi also,
Yeah.
okay? Sometimes Hashem gives you the HaKodesh, sometimes He takes
Right.
away. That's a problem for me.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm very methodical, I'm very
right.
Don't give me logic, because this Chumash is a logic. I mean, it's not a logic. It's Chumash is all proof. He was not created as an animal,
Yeah.
and he was not created as a human being. He was half and half.
No, it's not true. It's not true. The Chazal say that he was an animal. It's just that he was a very advanced animal. He, very, very sophisticated, and he was like humans in some ways, but he was definitely an animal. He was definitely an animal. The bottom line.
So we know that he was created as an animal.
For sure, there's no question about that.
And here the second part.
Yeah, he must have, because I'll tell you something. You have to understand one thing, that in the Torah, we have ways of deduction. We have logic also, It's not only whatever is written, explicitly. It's that you also have to, use your noodles. That's why God gave us the noodles, right? So we have to use that. So what we're saying is like this. It must be that there was a male and female. Why? Because it was just like all the other animals, number one. Number two is because we have also female snakes today. So if you're going to tell me that it wasn't created female, so they, must have undergone a mutation,
Right.
So that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
You contradicting yourself.
Yes. Why?
It was one serpent, right? It was one serpent.
One serpent, but every animal was one. But he also had a wife.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So how come we have so many species of serpents now?
Well, you can ask the same thing about cats. We have also Siamese cats, and we have this cat, and we have dogs also. We have the German Shepherd, and we have Greyhound.
No, it was
all these
created
things.
by Hashem.
What all the species of dogs?
Of course.
We don't find that, by the way, that all the species were created. We have one animal which is a dog. We have one animal which is a cat. We have but we don't have. The truth is that we don't find that Hashem created 10 types of cats and 20 types of dogs. You won't find that. So it must be that it's just like human beings, just like, Kivrei Adam Rishon. But now there's Africans and there's Puerto Ricans and, there's Cubans and there's everything else. So we have also, different kind of people that, they all look different though, some of them are black, some of them are yellow, some of them are green, some of them are this and that. So, I think that's what it is. I mean, what can I tell you? According to my humble, opinion, what can I tell you? Everybody's got their own,
I understand.
That's the way it seems to me.
Okay,
That's the way it seems to me, right?
I was under the impression,
yes,
correct me if I'm wrong,
yeah,
that God created all the animals.
Right.
He created a dog,
right,
and a female dog.
Right. Yes.
Correct? I mean, he is a doctor right now. If you take this DNA from them,
right,
he created two poodles. Okay, from the beginning.
Right.
Two poodles. Now we have a German Shepherd. How can two poodles make a German Shepherd?
Because it must be that he created, just like the man, the first man was Adam Rishon, and he had a certain kind of an appearance, obviously something.
I understand, but
right.
He created a man and a woman, and we are all their children. We are still human beings. He created two poodles.
It seems to be.
We have a German Shepherd.
It seems to be that according to certain conditions that people live under, that their appearance changes.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah,
Conditions of human beings.
Right. Also animals, same thing.
But poodle in America, in Russia, or in Siberia is still going to be a poodle.
Right.
You
but
cannot make a
they're all in the category of dog. You know what I mean? So therefore, we don't find that Hashem created many types of dogs. There's also many types of flies. There's also many types of mosquitoes. There's all kinds of things.
But he created
right. But he didn't create. I don't think he created 10 types of mosquitoes. He probably created one.
Listen, if I sleep with a woman, it's going to be a baby. If I sleep with a woman, I cannot make a three-headed baby. I cannot make.
Right. By the way, there are things like that. There are mutations. Sometimes there are.
Is different. Yeah. So you want to tell me that from a pair of poodles, German Shepherd was mutated?
No, probably what it was is that he created some kind of a general dog. Something like general. and then they branched off into different, different categories. Like human beings, the same thing. It's probably the same thing. Yeah.
Why we have life?
Yeah.
Why we have same thing?
Okay, but listen, human being is going to make only human being.
Yeah.
It cannot make a dog, just like a poodle cannot make a German Shepherd. If he says that he made a genetic poodle or the genetic German Shepherd, and he ordered them to come out in different species, then it's logical.
Yeah.
So this is the answer that you're giving.
It seems to be. It seems to be. In other words, that there was mutations, there was changes according to conditions, according to all kinds of things, and they changed, and then they branched off into different species, different subcategories, and so forth and so on. So, that's what it seems to be.
So he created a genetic poodle.
Some kind of dog. Well, I didn't say poodle, right? Some kind of dog, right? Yeah, a dog, right.
A creation.
Yeah, dog. Yeah,
there was
a dog.
And he ordered them to multiply.
And by the way, you see this from the Midrash, because the Midrash says something interesting, right? It says also in the Chumash itself that Hakadosh Baruch Hu brought all the animals to Adam Rishon. And he told them, what is this one called? What do you call this one? What do you call this one? And he called each one a name. He gave each one a name. Now, why did he ask him this? What's the reason why? Why didn't God tell him himself what the names were? Because Adam Rishon had the wisdom to call each one the proper name according to their characteristic. So we don't find that he called poodle and all these things. We found that he called dog. There was a lion. There was a cat. There was in other words just one of each category of each species. So it doesn't. We don't find that he called over there like many different subspecies and stuff like that. That we don't find.
You cannot compare a lion to a dog because lion he called a lion. Lion reproduces a lion.
Right. But there's also different types of lions. There are.
It's a cat animal. That belongs to
No, I'm saying there's also different types of lions. There's there's the ones in Africa. There are different characteristics also. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, some of them are they have a bigger mane, some of them a smaller mane, whatever. All these kinds of things.
They created a lion, and they reproduced and created different species of lions.
I want to tell you something interesting, by the way. If you come to this already, I'll tell you something really interesting. The question is about the tiger, okay? Because we don't really find that the tiger says the Chazal, the tiger was not created on the 6 days of creation, like the lion was. Okay, so where does the tiger come from? So Chazal say the tiger is a mamzer. You know it's a mamzer, right? What does that mean? Mamzer means that he was illegitimate. What does that mean? That it came from crossbreeding. So what happened? How did the tiger come out? It says, right, that sometimes what happens is that the female lion, right, the lioness, gets heated up and wants to, be with her husband, whatever, the man, the guy, So what happens is that before the lion comes a wild boar, right, and comes on the lioness, and from that is born a tiger. So tiger is a crossbreed between a lioness and a wild boar.
Pig, crazy, wild pig.
Wild pig, right? Yeah, right. Wild bull, right? Right. Because they live in the same habitat, these two animals in general, right? The wild boar and the lion, they're usually the same area. So comes the wild boar. So the tiger, they call the tiger, right? They say in the Pirkei Avot, Heve az kanamer, v'kal kanesher, v'gibor ka'ari, right? What does this mean? When you go to serve Hashem, when you do the will of God, you should be az kanamer. What does that mean? You have to be brazen, like the tiger, brazen like the tiger, right? So what does that mean? The tiger is a very brazen animal. What does it mean brazen? Arrogant, like he'll just like walk in on you. He has no shame. He has nothing holds him back. Just goes in on you. Just like very very arrogant. No shame. Nothing holds him back. And they're much more arrogant than the other animals. So why is that, right? Because they say the tiger is a mamzer, So they say, right, the mamzer has a characteristic of what? Of being brazen, azpanim, legeinam, azpanim. Right? They say that if you see a person who's azpanim, what does that mean? Arrogant person, very brazen, no shame. You know what it means? What's an example of brazen? The Gemara brings a story. The story is that one time, they say that there was a certain lady in a certain town, okay? And she was like, the rumor was that she was like cheating on her husband, going with men. She was like a zona, prostitute, whatever, So what happened was that they weren't sure though, because they had no proof about it. So they came to the rabbi, one rabbi there who was living there, And they asked him a question. They said, listen, Rabbi, we're not sure about the children, that she has. Maybe they're mamzerim because, she's like known to go with men, this lady. So maybe they're not legitimate. So the question was, right, how do we find out? We have no way of knowing that. The truth is that the halacha says, right, that when you have a woman who cheats on her husband, okay, we assume that the children are from the husband, as a general rule. Why is that? Because they say, right, rova beilot minabal. They say, right, that most of the sexual activity goes with the husband, even though she cheats. Let's say she has somebody on the side, but most of it is from the husband. So therefore, we assume that the majority, right? So therefore, we assume that the child belongs to the father. Okay, that's an assumption, but that's only when she's not very, very, very loose. Like in other words, she doesn't cheat that much. But when she's like really, really loose, and she goes with a lot of men, a lot of times, there's no she's really, really, she's out of control. So a girl like that, lady like that. So then we have really a question, because sometimes the majority of the sex could be from somebody else. So therefore, that's why they came to this rabbi. They asked him. They said, let's how do we know? What do we care if they're mamzerim? Because if they are, they can't marry into the community. A mamzer is not allowed to marry a regular Jew. He has to marry another mamzer.
Why can't you convert him to be a Jew and then?
He's Jewish already. That's not the problem. He's not a goy, but the problem is that he's a blemished Jew. He's got a blemish. So this blemish, says the Torah, right? The mamzer is not allowed to marry into the community. Okay, so they say the Chazal, if you want to know if somebody's like blemished, maybe he has some problems, look at his behavior. If you see that he's very brazen, arrogant person, can't get along with everybody, fights with everybody, goes in, can't, he's got to fight with everybody. He's got to gripe with everybody, this guy. Chip on his shoulder all the time, can't get along with anybody. They say if you see a person like that, you can maybe assume, you have to assume somewhat, not for sure, but maybe he's not legitimate, this kid. And this is why he has this problem. So they say, az panim, person who's brazen, he, is likely to be a mamzer. So therefore, this rabbi knew this rule. So what does he do? He's a smart guy. What does he do? He goes to the children of that lady and pulls a trick on them. What does he do? He says, your father came to me in a dream, because the father was already dead. It was like, she was a widow now, this lady. The father was already dead. So your father came to me in a dream, and he told me that he buried a treasure for you under the ground, and he wants you to go and dig it up. And he came to me, and he wants to tell you where it is. So he says the only way he'll tell you where it is that you have to dig up his grave. Go into the grave, dig it up, and knock on his coffin. Like this, dok, 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 and he'll tell you where it is. Okay, so that's what he tells the kids. You understand? So the kids go, and they dug up the grave. Can you imagine? They dig it up, and they start knocking on his coffin. So the rabbi says, you see, they're for sure mamzerim, these kids. Why? Because if they have the brazenness to do such a thing like this, to go into their father's coffin, and dig it.
Don't give me that.
You understand?
All right? 90% of Hasidim will do the same.
So I must tell you that this is what we know. So now going back to the tiger, okay? The tiger is also very brazen. So that's why they say, right? The Chazal, that be az kanamer. Az means brazen, What does that mean? That when you go to do mitzvot, you have to be brazen also. Like, just go for the mitzvah, jump on it, Don't let it go. They tell you, when it comes to that, be like a mamzer. Go for it. Jump into it. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. So, why they say az kanamer, and why gibor kari? Right? The ari is the lion. You understand? So it says be gibor be mighty like the lion, but be brazen like the tiger. Why? What's the difference between one and the other? Why this one is brazen? Why this one is mighty? So the answer is that the lion is the king of the beasts. It's like the mightiest one. Very mighty animal. And when it comes to, by the way, it's not the biggest animal, but it's the mightiest. What does that mean? That it has a very brave heart. Like it just has. They have no fear. They'll fight with you. Crazy. They have no. Just you can tell they're tremendously brave. They have a bravery. Which is like unbelievable. This is the strength of the lion, the brave heart that they have. But the tiger is a mamzer. So he is half a lion, you understand? His mother is a lion. His father is a boar, wild boar. So it's telling you, be like him, be like a mamzer also. In other words, you have to be mighty to do the mitzvot. You also have to be brazen, Don't be ashamed. Go for it. So why is it saying that? Because the tiger is a mamzer. What does that mean? The tiger, as we said, is born from here and here. So the tiger was not created on the 6 days of creation. That's what the Chazal say. He is a mamzer. And so what do we see from there? That not everything, was created from 6 days. There's also crossbreeding going on, And because of that, we have some strange animals sometimes. That, half and this, half that. And sometimes, you have also, there are cases like this where, sometimes like a sheep, gives birth to like a goat. There are cases like this. So it could be that the father was a goat, something, whatever. There was some crossbreeding there. Yeah, something like that, right? So, there are things like this. There are all kinds of things like this. It's a very complicated thing, There's the genetics and all this stuff, mutation and all these things. Let's go on from there.
Let's go on.
So the thing is now, we're talking about the Nachash, right?
Yes.
Because
we finished Nachash.
Right.
Let's go with the...
You want to go further?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, where should we go? Where should we go now? We want to go to Cain and Abel? You want to go to Cain and Abel?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. So now the interesting thing is, let's just read the psukim here about Cain and Abel. It starts, I think it's Perek Daled. It's the fourth Perek. Yeah, I think so.
Now, I also heard when Cain and Abel were born, they were born with their twin sisters.
Right. Yes.
So they got one brother made the other brother sister.
Yes.
God bless.
This is the interesting thing there. With a lot of interesting things there.
So they're married sisters, right?
Yes, each other's sisters.
Each other's?
That's how I understand it.
So it says the pasuk like this, right?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
They were born simultaneously. They were not twins, right?
What, Cain and Abel?
Yeah.
No, they were not.
So one guy was born 1 year, the other guy was born next year.
Right, but the thing was that in those times, the pregnancy and birth was like a day.
Like a day.
Yeah, it wasn't really like 9 months like it is now.
So they made their own sister or their brother's sister?
We'll explain this now. Let's just read the pasuk and we'll explain. So it says like this, right? This is the fourth parak, the fourth chapter. Ve'adam yada et Chava ishto. So it says, right, that Adam knew his wife. V'tahar betelet et Cain v'tomer kaniti ish et Adonai. So it says, right, that he gave birth to Cain. As we mentioned beforehand, a couple of weeks ago, right, the Cain was, as the Zohar says, the Cain was really the son of the Nachash, of the snake. Why? Why is that? Because they say, right, that when the snake, was messing around with Chava, with Eve, with Chava, so what happened was that he had some kind of sexual thing with her. You understand? Yeah, there, whatever. There was some adultery that went on there. By the way, the Arizal says that this is not literal, this Zohar. It's like something figurative, meaning what? Something spiritual went on there, some kind of spiritual connection. Whatever it is, anyway, we're not going to get into that. That's already Kabbalah, but anyway, the point is that what happened over here was that the Cain took on the characteristic of the snake, because he was, he had that quality of the snake. What does that mean? The Cain was an evil man. Basically, he was just like the snake was evil, was a wicked person. He was also wicked. So what happened was that Cain was born, and Cain, and then after that, right? So what is it? It says in the pasuk like this, right? Ve'adam aded Chava et Cain, right? It says et Cain. So that means what? That word et is coming to signify that there was also a sister born there with him, a twin sister, something like that, right? Okay. So then comes the next pasuk, right? Vatosef laledet et achiv et hevel. Okay. So here it says et twice in hevel, right? Why et twice? Because there was two sisters that were born with him. You understand? So Cain came with one twin sister, and Hevel came with two twin sisters. That's what happened. You understand? So now what happens over here? That once these two now, are going to get married, whatever, they have to take a wife, so they take their sisters, because in those times the sister was not forbidden. There was no other choice.
It's not their brother's sister.
They can switch also. No problem. Yeah, they switch. Right. Yeah. No problem. But the problem was that there was three women over here. You understand? As we said, right? Two here, one here. So who's going to get the third one? That was the question. You understand? They can't split it up into two. So there was already a fight that came up because of that. The question was, who's going to get, right, the second sister of Hevel? So what happened was that Cain, took that, he wanted the second one. And this is one of the reasons why Cain killed Hevel. This was one of the reasons. Also, there was another reason, which is what? They say that Cain, as the Pasuk goes on to say, what happened was that as they grew up and they, started to work, so Cain was a farmer, he was that was his profession, and Hevel was a shepherd. So, what happens is that, these people are very spiritual people, because they're, the sons of Adam Arishon, very spiritual. So Hevel comes and brings an offering to God, So what does he do? He brings like the best stuff, the best fat of the sheep, which is like the highest quality, right? The fat tail in the back, the rump roast, whatever, all that stuff. So he brings that stuff, and he offers it to Hashem. He burns it up on the Mizbeach, on the altar, and Hashem accepts that. So then Cain comes, he says, well, if my brother did it, I might as well do it too, I can't be left behind. Got to keep up with the competition. So he went and he offered, but what he did was he offered not the best, he offered the worst. So what did he do? He was a farmer, so he took flax seed, which is like cheap stuff, and he offered that, which is like cheap, not really the most quality stuff. And so Hashem, it says, right, didn't accept his offering, So because it wasn't accepted, Cain got upset, and he was jealous of Hevel. So what happened was that because of the jealousy, because of the sisters, the taking the extra woman, and also because of this thing, so Cain, started to become jealous of Hevel. And by the way, they say, right, Chazal, that jealousy is a very, very dangerous thing. One of the most dangerous things. As it says in Pirkei Avot, that jealousy brings out the person from this world. Motziat adam min ha'olam. It takes out the world from the world, person from the world. Why is that? Because when a person is jealous of his fellow man, it can cause him to do the worst things, He can speak bad about him, lashon hara. He can steal from him. He can take his stuff, rob him. He can kill him too, right? As we saw, this is what happened. So what happened? This murder was caused by jealousy. Okay, and they say Chazal also another thing, which is that jealousy is the characteristic of a snake also. Why? Because the snake. Why did he really want to kill Adam Arishon? Because he wanted to take his wife. As we mentioned, right, a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned this. So the whole point was that the snake was jealous of the man, right? And Cain, who was the son of the snake, as we said, also had the same characteristic, the midah of jealousy, the characteristic of jealousy. This is what happened, So jealousy is a very, very dangerous thing. It takes a person out from the world, and this is exactly what happened. The snake was taken out, right? He as we said, he was a very sophisticated animal, right? He walked upright. He was able to speak, all these things. He was the most sophisticated animal. So what happened was that because he was jealous, and because he went on and did this scheme to kill Adam Arishon, so Kadosh Baruch Hu removed him from that world. From that, in other words, he took him out from the circles of people, which is like a higher circle. You're hanging around people. It's better than being on the ground. Just slithering on the ground. So that's a different life. So he was removed, and the same thing happened to Cain, right? Because he was jealous of his brother, he was also removed from the world. What does that mean? That Cain, once he killed his brother, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu say, right? Na v'nad tiyeh, right? So you have to also always be moving around. You're never going to be able to stay in one place. So he was exiled, banished, from that place, and he had to go, travel all around, all the time, traveling, never able to rest anywhere. He had to go to exile, And so what do we see? That a person who has jealousy, which causes also, by the way, hatred, So one causes the other, one leads to the other, as the Chazal say, right? The kashe kina shegorem sina, right? The jealousy is very hard. Why? Because it causes also hatred. So when a person is jealous, it makes him hate also. So this is what caused the Cain to kill his brother, because of the jealousy and the hatred, and one thing led to another. So what did he do? He devised some kind of a wacky scheme. What did he say? Right? He told he comes to Hevel. He was trying to devise some scheme to see how he can trick him. Into getting into a fight with him. There should be some excuse to kill the guy. You just can't kill him for no reason. So he's got to devise something. This is how people are. These wicked people. They're always thinking how to, how to how to start something, how to create some kind of a right. So what do? He comes and tells Hevel, "Listen, my brother, it's just you and me in the world, right? Our father, is here, but it's just you and me, basically. So let's divide up the world 50-50. Let's divide it up. It says you're a shepherd, right? So you'll be in control of the air, and I'll be in control of the ground, So he said, you'll be like, whatever's above the ground is yours. You understand what I'm saying? And whatever's on the ground is mine. That's what Cain tells him, right? So Hevel says, okay, it sounds good. I have no problem with that, because my sheep need to eat whatever's above the ground, the trees, the grass, all this stuff, all this stuff. And you're the ground, you're a farmer, so the ground belongs to you. Okay, so then Cain says, wait a second, now what happened, right? All of a sudden, he turns around and tells Hevel, listen, didn't we divide up the world? You said, right? You agreed to it. You get the ground, I get the ground, you get whatever's above the ground. So he says, but you're trespassing on my ground, you're walking on the ground. He says, you're going to get off. So Hevel tells him, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do? Build a ramp? What do you want to do? How am I supposed to live like that? So he says, I'm sorry, you're trespassing, So he told him, he started to chase him, and started to, try to assault him. Get off my ground. Start chasing him. So the truth is, the Chazal say, right, that Hevel was stronger than Cain. He was a tough guy, Hevel. He was a strong guy. So what he did was, once Cain started to chase him, and attack him, so he wrestled him down to the ground, and he got him into a headlock, told him, no, what's with you? Like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do with me? So Cain says, you're right, I'm sorry, my brother, you're right, I apologize, whatever. Once he let him go, then he took, something and hit him, whatever. So what happened was that he wasn't sure, he took like a knife or something, so he wasn't sure, this was like the first murder that took place, you understand? So he didn't know how a person is killed. He didn't know how it's done, he wasn't sure. So what he does is, he tries to hit him over here, hit him over there, stab him over here, he doesn't know how it's done. So he tried every place until he got something, that he was able to kill him. So he kills him off. And so then comes, Kadosh Baruch Hu, and tells Cain, what happened? Where's your brother? Says, well, I'm his keeper. What do you want from me? I don't know where he is. He tried to get out of it. So Kadosh Baruch Hu said, what did you do? You know what you did. You didn't just kill your brother. You killed also all the offspring that was supposed to come from him. There was supposed to be a whole line of people coming from this person. He's like a root of a certain line of people, nations, all these things. You killed, it's like you messed up the world. Right, exactly. You messed up the world big time. So Cain, tries to play innocent, whatever, I didn't know, blah, 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 this. The Kadosh Baruch Hu says, listen, you murdered your brother, so now you have to go to exile. So says Cain, right, but if I go to exile, what's going to be with me, right? Some animal will come, some wild animal, and it's going to kill me, I'm not going to be able to stay like that.
When you say exile, exile...
That means you have to leave the area and keep moving all the time. Never stay one place. That was the exile. Right, exactly. Yeah,
Can we backtrack a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I just thought of a question. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, and all the elements there. Animals there.
Right.
All the animals there.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And all the trees and all the plants and all the...
Yes.
Beautiful. On the earth itself. Where is this Garden of Eden? Up there in the Shemaim somewhere, or it was a part of the earth?
A good question. Yeah, it's a good question. This is talked about. They talked about this. They talk about this in Chazal, right? They say exactly where Gan Eden was.
On the earth.
Yeah, it was definitely on the earth. Yes.
Okay.
As the Chazal tell us, right, that there's two Gan Edens. There's one on the earth, and there's also one in Shemaim. There's also one in the sky. There's two different things. You understand? So the one that we're talking about was down here.
That was the Garden of Eden.
Right, Garden of Eden. Yes.
Now, when Hashem. No, let's say this is the Garden of Eden. It's one spot, one dot.
Yeah.
And everything else was the population of the other parts of the earth.
Right. So the thing was that once that Adam Arishon sinned, he was banished from there. So that's it. That ended. So Gan Eden then now became like a closed. Kadosh Baruch Hu closed the door to Gan Eden. He put an angel there, right, to guard it. So he should not be able to get in there anymore.
That's not my question.
Right.
My question is this: there is a part of the earth that is Gan Eden.
Right.
The Adam Arishon was his wife.
Yes.
And all the animals.
Yes.
Are the inhabitants of.
Right.
what is going on the rest of the earth?
What was going on? What was going on at that time?
Some other parts of the earth.
Right.
Let's say
it seems like
it's
pretty obvious, right, that when Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world, right, the Gan Eden was really the place to be. In other words, it wasn't meant to be the rest of the earth was not meant to be, anything for anything until the sin came. It wasn't really, it had no purpose.
What was the rest of the world? The rest of the earth? Nothing.
It was definitely created. The whole world was created.
What
right.
was on top of the earth first? Nothing. It was waters and sand, let's say, for instance.
Nothing was growing there. It's true. That's what it says, right? It wasn't growing because until they started to farm, nothing was growing there. So they had to farm.
Okay. When Adam Arishon sinned, he was kicked out of Gan Eden.
Yes.
Together with the animals.
Yes.
Let them go populate the earth.
Yes.
Enjoy everything.
Yes. Right. Okay. That's it. That's what it seems to be. Okay. So getting back to what we were saying, that now Cain, right, tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, listen, if I go like this, I'm going to be eaten alive by some animal. So, how am I going to do this? So God tells him, listen, I have no problem with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put on your forehead a letter, from my name. And when they see that letter, they're going to run from you. They'll be scared of you. So they're not going to kill you, the animals, right? So Cain gets banished. He goes into exile. And so Hevel is dead. And as the Chazal say, right, that now he brings also another son, which is called Shet. Shet is the third son, right?
Adam.
Right, of Adam, yes. So Shet was, the Mekubalim say, the Zohar says, that the Shet was a Gilgul of Hevel. Was a reincarnation of Hevel. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to bring him back into the world, because there was a whole line of people that had to come from him. So therefore, he brought him back again. This is the way it was. So he brings him back, and now we have Shet and we have Cain. But the problem was with Cain, that he was really supposed to be killed. In other words, it says, right, that Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to punish him after generations. He's going to be punished, right? So that's exactly what happened with Cain, that he was killed in the end. After generations, he was killed, and what happened was that the truth is that all his descendants were also killed off. All his children were killed off. Nobody was left from Cain. In other words, the whole thing became extinct. The only person that was really left from Cain, when we're talking about the flood of Noah, the only person that was left is one lady. Who was that? Naamah, right? Her name was Naamah, and she was the wife of Noah. So he was from Cain. That was the only person that was left from Cain. All the rest of the descendants of Cain were all killed off in the flood. None of them survived. That's what happened. So
his descendants didn't survive. Nobody survived.
Right, except Noah and his family, right?
Yeah, Noah.
And they were not from Cain.
And also,
right?
Here some few giants also.
Right. So the whole thing. What's the story with the giants? Yeah. The story with the giants is like this, right? That there was two angels, right? They say in Shamayim, and what they said was Tzakadosh Baruch Hu, right? That they were accusing the man. They were saying about the man that mankind, that he's a sinner, and this and that, all that, and so meaning what? That they don't deserve to survive. They should be wiped out altogether. Oh. Right. So these angels, one was called Azza and the other was Azael, something like this, right? That was their names. So these two angels, what happened was that Kadosh Baruch Hu told them, listen, if you really think, you think you're better than the man, I'm going to show you that the man is better than you. So he says, how is that? He says, I'm going to take you down to the earth, let you go down there, and see how you do over there, with the Yetzer Hara. You think you're better than the man? So he sent them down there, and the truth is they became like, big sinners. What happened was that they were, taking all kinds of women and having children with them. So they say the children came from that union, from those angels, right? Angel is something else, not a human being. So because of the superpower that the angel has, so it created some kind of a mutant, as we said, right? So this mutant thing was that these giants. These giants came from the angels that were taking women and regular women and having offspring with them. This is what happened. This is how the giants came along. So we find, by the way, that the jealousy it has always been a factor, right, in the whole world. That, as we said, right, the snake was jealous of Adam Rishon, Cain was jealous of Hevel, and then we have also the jealousy of the forefathers, right? We had, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So what do we find over there? That Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Yitzchak, and Ishmael was jealous of Yitzchak. He wanted to kill him also. He wanted to get rid of him. Same thing over there. Then we find also the same thing with Yitzchak, right? He has two sons, Esav and Yaakov. Also, Esav is jealous of Yaakov. So what do we find? That also, by the way, then we find the sons of Yaakov, Yosef and the other brothers, right? The brothers are jealous of Yosef. So we see, right, that jealousy is always a central theme in the whole creation, in the whole, scheme of the whole biblical scheme. Jealousy is always a part of it, and that's what kills everything, destroys everything. They say, right, that when there's jealousy and there's hatred, the Chazal say it always brings galut, right, exile. It always go to galut. There's somebody gets exiled. You can't stay in one place. Why? Because they can't get along. You know what I mean? So once they can't get along, they have to separate. One has to go somewhere and goes his own way. So what do we find? We find, right, that as we said, when the snake was jealous of Adam Rishon, right, he had to go to exile. He was banished. He was banished from humanity. Snake. Cain, who was jealous of Hevel, was also banished. Go out. Right? Same thing, Ishmael, right, who was jealous of Yitzchak. Right? What did they say? Kick him out. They threw him out. Right? They sent him to Arabia. He couldn't stay in Eretz Israel. Right? Because Abraham was living in Hebron. That's where most of his life was. And he kicks him out, tells him, go to Arabia. He went to Arabia. He lives over there. So Ishmael was also kicked out. Sarai Menu, right, our foremother, right, says to Avraham Avinu, get rid of this guy. He's a Rasha. He's terrible, this guy. Get him out of here. So he had to banish him. Same thing, right, with Yaakov and Yitzchak. That because, Yaakov and Esav. That Esav was jealous of Yaakov. So what happened over here now? Interesting things, right? Over here, who went to exile? It was Yaakov who went to exile, not Esav. It should be the other way around, right? It should be the guy who's jealous goes to exile. So why over here Yaakov went to exile and Esav stayed? So there's one interesting commentary I saw on that, right? Which is that it says like this, that the reason Yaakov had to go, not Esav, is because Yaakov should have done one thing. He messed up something. He should have mekaraved Esav. He should have brought him back, to do tshuva. Teshuvah wasn't that, no. He should have made him to tshuva. He was his brother, twin brother, So you should have worked on him, tried to teach him, tried to train him, trying to work on him, so to be a good boy, try to make the tshuva. So they say that because he didn't want to do that so much, he really didn't work on that so much. He should have done a better job.
Then he would have competition.
Right, but he wasn't a jealous type. He wasn't a jealous type. No, that's not the reason why. Because Yaakov he didn't care so much for him. He didn't have the love that he should have had. You understand?
Disliked his brother.
Not that he disliked him. He disliked him because he's a Rasha. Not because of person. Nothing personal. He was a Rasha. He was a wicked person. He was a murderer. He was an adulterer. He was a denier. He was a kafir. He was everything. He had all the bad qualities itself.
The only thing that he had, he was respected.
Right, he was doing kibbud aven. That's true. Right, that's true. And by the way, until this day, they say that the reason why the descendants of Esav, who are the Christians, why they have so much success in the world, so much wealth. All the wealth is by them. All the success is by them. All the power is by them. Everything is by them. Why is that? Because of the honor of the kibbud aven that Esav did to his father, right? And this is why they have all this in this world. But in the world to come, they won't have there. Why? Because all their mitzvah is going to be wasted over here, because they're not tzaddikim. So therefore, they're not going to have olam ba. They will be in olam hazeh, very successful. Once the zchut, the merit of the mitzvah of kibbud aven that they did runs out, that's it. It'll be finished, and they'll be dropping out of the picture. That's what it means, right? So anyway, getting back to what we're saying, this time Yaakov has to go to exile. You understand? So because of the fact that he didn't do the kiruv, as we said, right? He didn't do the work to bring close his brother. Also, we have another one, which is what? That they say that Yosef, right, also, his brothers, they hated Yosef, they were jealous of him. So what happened? Yosef had to go to exile, right? And then they all went to exile. They had to go to Egypt. So, it was like a whole thing there. So every time, you see from here what? Every time you find jealousy and hatred, you find exile. You cannot stay together. So now coming to where we are today, right? Why are we here now in Regal Park, New York? Why aren't we in Jerusalem? Because we're in exile. Why? Because what's the reason? Because of this hatred. They say, right, that the exile that we have from this exile, from the Second Temple, is because of hatred, jealousy. This is the reason. So now we see we're 2,000 years in exile because we can't get rid of this sin of jealousy and hatred. This is the reason why. You understand? So you see how powerful this thing is? It's a very powerful sin. And it started all the way back there. The roots are all the way back there, It never stops, this thing. Same thing you find, by the way, in the first temple, right? That you had all the jealousy over there between the kings. One is jealous of the other, right? There was Shaul, who was jealous of David, and he was chasing him, trying to kill him. Same thing over there, right? Then you had the northern kingdom, southern kingdom, there was jealousy between them, right? All the time wars, civil wars going on for many, many hundreds of years. Millions of people died, by the way, in these wars. You're talking about a Holocaust, right? But there was more than a Holocaust over there. We're talking about every time. By your own brother, right? Yeah, they had civil wars like every year. Every year they had a war. It's like, it was amazing. Just like killing off each other like flies.
But at that time, the temple existed already.
Yes, by the time of the kings, it was existing, but the northern kingdom branched off, and they made their own temples, and then their old idols, and all kinds of things.
Idols?
Right, they had idols. Yes, they had calves. Right, they had 2 calves that they made. Yerovam ben Nevat, right, who was the king of the northern kingdom. He was the one who founded that kingdom, and he made 2 calves, right, golden calves, and they were going and worshiping that. It was idolatry. That's what he did. So you see that jealousy, this jealousy thing has been the destructive factor of the world, since we can remember. That's the way it is. It's an amazing amazing thing. It's so destructive. Okay, let's go on. So, any questions, by the way?
No, it's
okay, good.
Any questions, please? Million, but
zillion questions. Okay. Now, interesting thing, right? That they say that even though Cain was a bad boy, as we said, right, and Hevel was the good boy, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in His infinite mercies, says the Zohar, He wants to be metaken everybody. He wants to fix everybody. He doesn't want to leave anybody out. You understand? So what He did was, He even wanted to fix Cain. Even though all the descendants of Cain were killed off, as we said, but He brought them back in reincarnations in order to fix the sin of Cain. So how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this? What's the plan? How does it work? He takes the neshama of the person who was a sinner, right? And once the person dies, He does surgery on the neshama, right? Cuts off the bad piece, and leaves a good piece. So once He leaves a good piece, He brings it back in reincarnation again. That's what He does.
the good piece.
Right, the good piece.
Why he should bring the bad piece to get this kamosultis.
Get improved.
You see, good question. Good question. Good question. By the way, this question you're asking, Moshe Rabbeinu also had this question. I'll explain to you what happened over there. This question is a good question. So what happens is like this. We'll go through it slowly, little by little. So what we're saying is like this, that Cain, right, was, as we said, he was a bad boy. So Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to fix him too. And by the way, Cain was the Bechor, they say. Firstborn, right? So what does that mean? What do we care if he's a firstborn? Because they say, right, the firstborn has a certain sanctity, a certain holiness, There's a certain holiness in the firstborn. So because of that, Cain had some holiness too. He was a firstborn. So therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to bring that good out in him, that good part of him out. So what he did was he cut off the bad part, and He brings the good part back again, right? And what was the purpose of that? He had to now. This was an amazing thing. What happens in the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moshe Rabbeinu comes back. Right? He's the Gilgul of Hevel. He's the Gilgul of Shet. Moshe Rabbeinu. He's the Gilgul of Noach. The same guy. Okay. So Moshe Rabbeinu comes back in 4th time now, right? Reincarnation. After those 3, comes back, and now he's the savior of Israel. He's Hevel, right? But now much holier than Hevel, because Hevel also had some impurity. It says the Zohar, right? He wasn't 100% pure, Hevel. He had also some bad stuff in there. Also, Hevel wasn't 100% clean. So therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu now brings back Moshe Rabbeinu. That's Hevel. And Moshe Rabbeinu now becomes the king of Israel. He's the leader of Israel, right? Savior, right? The Messiah. So comes now, what happens? That Moshe Rabbeinu had to go to exile, right? Because Paro chased him, to kill him, and he had to leave. So he went to Midian, right, which is a country in the south. It's in like close to Saudi Arabia over there. So Midian, he goes to Midian. Midian was a kingdom at that time. Now it's also a kingdom. So he went over there, and he finds over there, meets up with he goes to a certain well over there, well of water, right, and meets up with the daughters of Yitro, right, Jethro, right. So now Yitro was from Midian. He was like a priest, like some kind of a religious clergy, religious clergy there. So Yitro had daughters, and he meets up with the daughters over there by the well. So what happens is that now they take him home to meet the father, Yitro, right? So Yitro sees Moshe Rabbeinu, and they meet each other. So what happens over here? It says the Zohar that Moshe Rabbeinu was the Gilgul of Hevel, as we said, right? He was the reincarnation of Hevel. And who was Yitro? He was the reincarnation of Cain. You see? So now what happens over here? Yitro was Cain, so Cain had a tikkun. What was a tikkun? First of all, he had to do tshuva, he had to be a good boy. So Yitro, he converted to Judaism. Right? He was the first idolater. He was a priest, idolatrous priest. He tried every religion that there was in the world, right? Buddha, Judah, Buddha. He tried everything. Nothing worked for him. He didn't like anything. He realized that it's all nonsense. So he came and converted to Judaism.
Before he met Moshe Rabbeinu.
This was, Moshe converted him. Moshe converted him, right. So he comes and now he meets Moshe Rabbeinu. So he gives him his daughter, Tzipporah, to marry, right? So Tzipporah, this was also tikkun. What was the tikkun? They say that just like Cain, right, did this sin of taking the extra, sister that Hevel had, right? He wasn't supposed to do that. So he took that, and he kind of like took it by strength, by like a mafia guy, He took it by force. So therefore, now he had to come, and so Tzipporah was the Gilgul, was the reincarnation of that sister of Hevel. So what he had to do now is give back Tzipporah to Hevel, which was Moshe Rabbeinu. So there was also tikkun over there. The tikkun was, then the girl has to go back to his rightful owner, rightful brother, which was Hevel, which was Moshe Rabbeinu. So this is why he had to give back this girl, and he had to give Tzipporah to marry to Moshe Rabbeinu. This was the tikkun. So now getting to your question, right? The question is, good question, which is that what? What happens now? We said, right, the good part of the neshama comes back, right, as we said, into a better person, the better situation. What about the bad part? So the bad part also comes back. So the bad part, who was that, the bad part? I think we mentioned this before, several weeks ago. The bad part was the Erev Rav. Right? This was the Jews that, not Jews, but they were like Egyptians. They were people there were many nations that lived in Mitzrayim. It wasn't only Egyptians over there. Just like in New York, you have Chinese, you have Koreans, everything, everything over here, right? Also, Mitzrayim at that time, since it was the biggest superpower, it had all the nations over there were living. They had, representatives of all the nations over there. So therefore, they had many nations, and once they saw the Jewish people were redeemed, from Egypt, and God came and saved them, and they saw the honor that they had, the wealth that they had, all these things, so they wanted to convert also and become Jewish. They liked it. They liked the success of the Jewish people. So they converted. Now what happened was that this was the Erev Rav. These people were from the bad parts, the reincarnated from the bad parts. Right? So what happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu exactly made this was a mistake that he made, what you just mentioned. What was the mistake? He comes and says, listen, this bad part that got reincarnated, into the Erev Rav, I want to fix them too. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to fix everything. He was a good doer, goody two shoes. He wanted to do everything good. So he wants to fix it. By the way, the Zohar says that there was a reason why he wanted to fix it. You know what the reason is? He had a very deep reason for this. Because as we said, right, he was a reincarnation of Hevel, and Hevel was the son of Adam Rishon. So what happened was that Adam Rishon, when he did the sin, there was also a mistake that he made, right? Another mistake, Adam Rishon, which was what? He separated from his wife, 130 years.
How many wives did he have? Just one.
One, yeah, right. So he separated from his wife. Why? Because you know what he's afraid of? They say, right, that when the snake had relations, with Chava, as we said, there was something there. There's some kind of relation over there, right? So whatever it was, whether it was physical or spiritual, whatever it was, there was something left there, some kind of a zuhama. That's what we call it in Hebrew. Zuhama, right? Exactly right. Some kind of a filth there, spiritual filth. So this filth was left in Chava from the snake, and it took that amount of time to get it out. You know, this is why. This is exactly why. Moshe Rabbeinu. This is exactly why the filth, as we said, was left there. This is why Adam Rishon stayed away from his wife for that time, because he knew that the filth was there, and if he was going to have children with her, he knew that their children were going to be impure, just like Cain. You know, they weren't going to turn out good. So he waited until that impurity of the snake was going to leave Chava. This is what he did. So, but they say, but at that time, all that time that he waited, you know, they were also born like some bad, you know, the neshamot. There was certain souls that fell into the klipot. They fell into the impurity because of this, what he did. So therefore, what happened was that these neshamot that fell into the impurity, into the klipot, they were the ones that are the souls of Am Yisrael, of the Jewish people. They're the ones that had to be saved, and the tikkun had to be done for them. So what happened was that now the bad part of those souls is who? That's the Erev Rav. Right? And the good part is Am Yisrael, the Jewish people. So what happens is that Moshe Rabbeinu now says, listen, you know, my father, who was Adam Rishon, you know, what I'm going to do? I'm going to do him a favor. What am I going to do? I'm going to save his honor. Because he caused this problem of these neshama falling into the klipot, falling into the impurity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to convert them, you know, and make them holy. And this way I'll rectify the sin of my father that he caused these souls to fall into the klipot. So this is why he converted them. He wanted to fix that he wanted to make a tikkun on his father's mistake.
How often do people convert?
I think it's like left and right. It's a big business already now. It's huge, huge.
So in other words,
we're talking about big numbers, okay? We're talking about like you can't imagine. It's amazing. Just in Queens, you know, you have like amazing numbers here going on. You can't imagine. In Israel, it's even more. Right? So there's a lot of conversion going on. So what happens is that comes Moshe Rabbeinu and wants to convert them. But the problem was, the mistake was that he didn't consult with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He didn't consult. He didn't ask him, should I do it or not? So he converted them without asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Can you imagine? So comes HaKadosh Baruch Hu to him after he did the conversions. He tells him, listen, why did you convert these people? Who told you to do this? Like, what are you trying to do over here? So he says, you know, but I want to fix them. I want to fix them. Have a good one. God bless you. All the best. It's okay. Next time.
See you next week, I hope. Okay.
All the best. God bless you.
Thank you.
So he wants to fix them. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to fix the Erev Rav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, listen, you know, they don't have a fix. You can't fix them. They have no tikkun. This is the bad part. The bad part is all bad.
Okay.
You understand? So you're trying to fix something which has no tikkun. You made a big mistake. You converted these people. What are you trying to do? You should have asked me. You should have asked me. I would have told you what these people are. They have no tikkun. So they say, right, that this was a very big mistake that Moshe Rabbeinu made, to convert the Erev Rav. And until this day, by the way, they cause us to sin, the Erev Rav. They're part of the Jewish people. They get born into Jewish parents. And they cause us to sin. They're the ones who give us the bad influence and the bad culture and all these things. It comes from the Erev Rav. And they're Jews. So they say, right, that B'ezrat Hashem, when time for Mashiach comes, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will save the Jewish people, redeem them, finally. So what will be is that Moshe Rabbeinu has to come back, you know. He's the Mashiach. Moshe Rabbeinu is Mashiach. He's a part of the soul of Mashiach. So they say, right, he has to come back also. And because he made the mistake of converting the Erev Rav, he has to now come and take care of them. What does that mean? To destroy them. How does he do it? So it says, right, he will have to come back and do some kind of a spiritual tikkun in order to remove the nitzotzot of kedusha, the sparks of kedusha that are in the Erev Rav. And once he removes those sparks of holiness from the Erev Rav, because they got those sparks when they converted. When they converted, they got some holiness, you know. When a person converts, he gets holiness in him. He gets a new soul, you know. But the Erev Rav didn't deserve that, because they didn't do L'Shem Shemaim. They didn't do it.
Previously, last week, didn't you say that you're supposed to love your Erev Rav or convert as much as you love your brother?
Right. So the thing is that there's two types of converts, right? We have Ger Tzedek. What does that mean? A righteous convert. That's a person who converted L'Shem Shemaim, because he loves Torah, he loves Hashem, right? You know, all these things. He's not doing it to get a job or to, you know, to marry some Jewish guy who's rich, you know, stuff like this. This is not L'Shem Shemaim. You know what I mean? So there's two types of converts. There's Ger Tzedek, which is a person who converts to Shem Shamaim, and he has a Jewish soul, by the way. He's a real Jew, this guy. How is that? Because he did some sins in his former Gilgul, in his former lifetime, and because of that he came back as a Goy, but his destiny is to convert. That's the whole tikkun. Come back to the Jewish people. But there's also these people who come in, not L'Shem Shemaim, they're coming in just for ulterior motives, wealth, money, position, power, all these things, all, jobs, whatever it is, the marriage, they're coming back for that. So that's not Ger Tzedek. That's not a real righteous person. This is an Erev. They convert for ulterior motives. So we have two types of, so a person has to watch out. If he marries a person who's a convert, he has to make sure, right, that he's from the good part, right, not the bad. He has to check it out. He's got to make sure, he's got to know what he's getting. Because today we have, in Israel also, we have many people who are converting there. But the reason why they want to get is to get a job. They're coming from third world countries, Philippines and Africa and Nigeria, whatever it is, all these places, right? All these places, Eritrea, whatever these places. They're coming just to get a job, and they convert because they know how to do all the. They learn all the tricks, how to convince the rabbi to convert them, but they're not doing it because they love Hashem. They're doing it because they want a job. They want a status. They want medical benefits. They want insurance. They want all these things. So therefore, right. Moshe Rabbeinu has to come back. Says the Zohar has to come back and make this tikkun of destroying the Erev Rav. Why? Because they say, right, until the Erev Rav is destroyed, Mashiach cannot come. Why is that? Because they prevent Mashiach from coming. The wickedness of the Erev Rav doesn't allow the atmosphere for the Erev Rav for the Mashiach to come.
Moshe Rabbeinu is not the real Mashiach. It's an opening act for Mashiach.
Well, you know what it is? The Mashiach is it's a lengthy process. We're not talking about 1 year. We're talking about a lengthy thing. So they have to come and they have a job to do. You understand? They're just coming to get glory, get a crown on their head. They're coming to do a job, so they have to make a tikkun. The tikkun is all these things that we mentioned, right? And even more things. They have to make wage wars with the goyim. They have to wage wars with the enemies of Israel. They have to get rid of the Erevav. So each part of Mashiach, which is three, right? Mashiach ben Yosef, Moshe Rabbeinu, and Mashiach ben David. They each have a job to do. Each one has a specific job, and they have to do it together. Once they do all that together, so Be'ezrat Hashem, then we have the Geulah. It seems to be like it's unison also. In other words, it's not really one at a time. They're working together as a team. Even though one may be before the other a little bit, you understand? In other words, one may start before the other one, then the other one joins him also, and then the third one joins him. They all join together, and that's what creates.
It's simultaneous.
It will be simultaneously because they'll join each other. You understand? In other words, one, let's say, will come, let's say, 40 years before the other one. He'll do 40 years of work.
Simultaneous.
It is, because they'll be working also in unison. In other words, there'll be an overlap also. You understand? Yeah, overlap. Yeah. Chazak Baruch. Let's stop here. Okay. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too.
Thanks for coming.
The more you teach me, the more confused
I am. Yeah.
I need you to give me your phone number if you don't know.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I was going to tell you that. Just in case something happens.
Something happens, of course.
You know.